Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on screen.
Cool. Call the meeting to order. First up on the agenda is the tourism revenue preservation fund update, budget update.
Steve, we should probably
Oh,
just do, I'm sorry to
Roll
interrupt,
call.
Mr. Chairman, we should do a roll
Okay.
call.
Do a roll call. Thanks.
Marie Marasco, President.
Kevin Smith,
Joni Crowley.
Steve O'Neill. Okay, thank you for that. Reminder. Tourism revenue preservation fund budget update. File.
Yeah, so I was in your packet. It's not really anything big to discuss. I think the only changes from last one were you guys allocating money for the banner project. And for the wayfinding signage, you can see in the transfer column what was the difference from the last budget that you were presented, but so there's a little over 89,000 available and unallocated, 232,000 in public improvement expense. So I wanted to make sure you had these numbers at your disposal when you consider the sand sculpture trail funding request. Do you know if Mary's coming? Yeah, I thought she was too.
Okay, do we want to wait till she's here?
Yeah, she was going to help explain the funding request amount, but I can start it.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the quote for the Sam Sculpture Trail next year. I think it went up, what was it, 10%, around 10%. The CEDC has previously funded this project at around 33,000. I think last year was 33,600 bucks. So the chamber was requesting that the CEDC ups their contribution reflective of the increase in price. So I think the request this year, I believe, was $40,000. Mary was here, she confirmed that. So that is what is before you tonight. We have members, I think, from the Chamber of Commerce Marketing Committee here tonight. They also submitted a letter of support of this request that was in your packet. But that's for you to consider. Yep.
So I think a lot of it had to do with see the meals for seeing sculpture trail and lodging. With everything else going up, it's another indicator here. The prices have gone up. This, and I guess the issue before is, what does everyone feel about this? I have my own feeling about it. It's a whole lot of everyone else has a chance to speak, but
Kyle, can you just put back up the
Yep.
spreadsheet again? I just want to make sure I understand. This, if we look at the sand sculpture line, there's the 33.6 that Kyle mentioned. But the actual that was spent was only 24. Am I understanding that right?
Where are you seeing that?
I'm on the line that says sand sculpture trail.
Yeah, the rest should be encumbered. That's a mistake on my end. That's going to be fully expended if it hasn't already.
That 8690,
Yeah, that's not available.
it's not available.
Yeah.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. You have it in the encumbrances column. That was going to be my question. So they have consumed, we've provided the full 33.6, I guess is my question.
Yeah, that wasn't the full cost of the project last
No,
year, but
I
yes,
understood.
yes.
And so do we, nowhere in the letter is the amount that they're asking for.
Yeah, so I talked to Mary kind of on the phone about that when we were talking about 40,000 as the figure. That's why I was hoping Mary could be here to articulate that, but
It's not 10%, I guess is my quick comment increase.
What's going on? So this is the proposal that the vendor who we've used, who's done this for several years now, right? Yeah. And it does such a great job. I guess when Mary gets here, maybe you guys can, maybe you can handle these questions, but I wouldn't mind just going through the invoice. I have a couple of questions, if that's okay. Tell me about the individual businesses that have the sculptures. They pay for them.
They pay $995.
And that 995 goes to you. No,
That, well, actually, Mary's coming in right now, so I
Okay.
just want to make sure. I believe so.
Oh, it is big.
sure.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. We have some questions for you.
Great. I can't wait to answer them.
Oh, hi, Mary. Nice to see you. I just had some questions. maybe, I don't know if you want to sit there, Mary, or so you can see what I'm pointing at.
Take the seat, Mary.
Bag of glasses.
Maybe this one.
So Mary, we understand the request this year
Hey, Tom, I'll print you out a packet.
is for 40,000 from, is from
I
Fitzy
believe that's
Snowman?
what Kyle had suggested we asked for.
Okay. So, and the total cost is this 52,504 that we see, but I had a couple of questions about how it works. And one, the individual 3-ton sculptures that the businesses buy,
Correct.
they pay for them.
They do. They pay a portion of the cost,
They pay,
$995.
okay.
Can I tag on to that? And therefore that based upon 52.5, that each sculpture costs 1733?
No, so there's one 15-ton
Yeah, that's
that gets done, and
That's
then
separate.
there's also the two
Yep.
5-ton, right?
two
So
5-ton, but these are the 3 tons. Those are the standard ones for the businesses, right?
correct.
Okay. So this is where I'm going with the math a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I probably should have had these questions in advance. If I divide the 30 into the 2250, the cost per sand sculpture is 750. It says up to 33 ton.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't include the lodging.
No, I understand that. But that line item, up to 30 is the,
So 1, 2, 3 of them are not paid by businesses. So the one
Yeah.
at Town Hall
yeah,
is not paid for. The one at Route 6 is not paid for, and the one at Strawberry Lane.
okay. So the
So-
base price is
So
is
it would be 29 sculptures
right.
divided by that number.
And they're budgeting at approximately 30, which is fine.
Yep.
So when you gross up the 750 that the individual businesses pay, it grosses up to
So the entire initiative. is-
995.
Right, so there's also hauling of sand,
Oh, I'm sure there are all sorts of,
right? So that's why, so a sculpture, I think 2 years ago when we figured it out, actually cost about 13 or 12.75.
13 ton.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
you did it
Okay.
on 29? Okay.
Yeah.
you did it on 30.
okay. All right. And then my other question was about the two bigger sculptures. You just identified where those are.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's lodging and the meals per day. So of this total of the 52, the request is from us is for 40.
That is what Kyle's recommending.
Um,
I was trying to recall how we got the 40 figure. There was some sort of inflationary cost that you quoted and we
Well,
times
we
it out
talked
by.
about the overall cost of the entire project. So this is just for the artist. Okay, so there's the hauling of the sand from New Hampshire. There's the sand itself. The town 4 years ago, pre-COVID, the town staff would deliver the sand to each one of the business sites. They no longer do that. So that has become an expense of this initiative, which has added over $6,000. So we've had to get sponsors. We've had to sell advertising on the maps, the printed maps that we do, so that we're basically breaking even. So the cost of everything has just increased phenomenally since COVID.
Okay, so if we were to try, just not necessarily right now, but it would be good to know, I think, at least I would like to know, what does the whole thing really cost us? What are the total project costs here for this? Cost for this project, including the cost of the sand and the hauling, and then our contribution, how much are we sharing of that? I understand this is the work that Fitzy does. These are the artists, these are the guys who actually do the work. But all the materials and the logistics of getting the materials there are not in this estimate at all.
And nor are all of the staff time.
Yeah.
That's not,
Yeah.
like, we don't bill under any of the contracts for all of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if everyone introduced themselves who they are, but this is the marketing team and they work diligently to make sure that this initiative is successful every year. And they're all
Perhaps you could
volunteers.
introduce your staff member to you.
So
Hi, I'm
I
Jen,
think everyone
the
knows.
marketing
know Jen.
communications and events director. I think everybody knows me.
And then we have several of our marketing committee here.
I'm Anthony Green from Broadband Trust. I'm on the marketing committee.
I'm Chance Thayer of Devodyne.
Okay, thank you.
And a board member and Tom Nicanello,
Yeah,
you
of
know.
course, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
And I think there's 6, 7 other people on the
Yeah.
marketing committee as well.
I also wanted to be here, but something stuff.
Okay.
Are you done now?
yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I am.
So I know you were concerned about the cost, and yes, certainly the cost, and so I'm actually concerned about the value. Now, don't get mad at me. I'm taking this, I know you all love this project, but I'm wondering what $40,000 could be used for something else. And I think that is just a prudent thing to do every once in a while to take a time out. So I don't see in the letter from the, so my primary concern is if our charge is to work with existing businesses to create year-round jobs, improve the quality, to broaden the economic base, is this $40,000 investment doing it? So my question has to do with I have a measure of clicks that were made on pages, but I don't see the number of visits to the individual businesses. Neither do I see a measure as measured by the businesses. Is sort of a question. Did this sand sculpture make you come into our business and therefore buy something? So my query has more to do with the valuation of marketing value of those dollars. Where else could that money be spent? We talk about another staff person. We talked about, we've got a budget for lights. We've got a budget for beautification. So that's one question that I have. And my second question is actually, assuming we're not deciding this, you all love this project. I'm outvoted. Is there a better way to manage this project and maybe put it all in one location and build something else on it? From my perspective, it does nothing, none of these sand sculptures say Yarmouth. Okay, so even if you have a GPS, I don't know if I'm driving dense for that matter. Secondly, I'm just driving around. I'm thinking as the person coming to Yarmouth or to the Cape, I'm not, it's like, it's just another thing to see as I'm driving around. But I think our goal is to make people stop and shop, stop and eat. So with that being said, have you all explored making this, supplementing the sand sculptures, putting it in one location and building an event around? Come and see the sand sculptures at Parkers River, whatever, some location, and then you bring in the food trucks, so you go build up little pop-up shops and you know, ask the local artisans to sell their stuff. So come see the sand sculptures and come create revenue for the time as opposed to just an outlay of money. So that's my concern. I just question the value
You want to respond?
Can I
40,000.
comment?
Do I want a response?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I wasn't just wanted to hear myself.
Okay. Wonder where you're gonna stop.
Well,
I mean, I can,
I want Mary, I think I know some, but I think enough to be dangerous. I do know that there's some follow-up to where the sculptures are placed and how, I think there's a contest, the word I'm looking for, a contest there.
Yeah, there's a Facebook contest that we do every year. And I'm back in 2020, we only had about 8,000 page views on our website. Last year we had over 16,000, and we do multiple ads in different publications. We also do mobile conquesting ads, which sets up a radius around different chambers and visitor centers on the Cape. And those campaigns have done phenomenal. I can't say that word. Phenomenal. They've had, close to like a 0.76 click-through rate, and we've been repeating them every year. And people come in all the time asking for the Sand Sculpture Trail maps. So they get in their cars, they go to different businesses, they get out, they take pictures with them, and then we run a Facebook contest as well that goes in conjunction with it. So that's been very popular as well.
And the whole idea, if I can, so the sand sculptures, some of them say Yarmouth. In fact, the one that's at our visitor center says Yarmouth.
Front of town hall, it does too.
Right. So the first one, the first one that people see is up on Route 6. And the first thing they want to do is take a picture there. Then they go in the visitor center and they're like, tell us about the sand sculpture. It's the first thing that brings people to the next exit, which is Yarmouth. Then they come to our visitor center on Route 28. We hand out 7,000 printed maps at the beaches and at our visitor center, just May through October. They have them digitally. And the purpose that they're around town is so that they get to see what's in town and go to a variety of different businesses that are retail stores, that are restaurants, that see the value because they know people come into their business.
Well, how do they know that, Mary?
Tom, can you speak to it when you had your restaurant?
At our facility, and you can, when you talk to the people, especially in the restaurant business, people want to talk and they want to get to know the facility, and they explain how they got here, and it's a wonderful experience to see, a carload of family members participate in this contest, and there's no other place does this. And, if we don't keep it, somebody else will grab it, and there is a following behind it. And if we're a beach community, we can put the beach in the size of a sculpture and put it on people's property, and that's sharing the beach, right? So I see it.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Briefly. In addition to my involvement with the board, with the chamber, this year I was the interim president with the Yarmouth Red Sox. And we had several people come to the sand sculpture that we had there at the field. And I talked to several families as I was there early preparing for a game or setting up the merchandise booth or whatnot, taking pictures with the kids. I'd often take pictures with them. And they would oftentimes come back to the games and they would seek me out at the game. Like, hey, I told you we'd be back tonight. And so that was a real good generator, way of people who had no idea we exist because they came from off Cape and they had the sand trail map and they came to get pictures taken with the sculpture. And they came back to the game and they bought food from us and merchandise and we made some revenue after that. So it was great. And they always, every one of them asked me, which other one should I see? They look at the map. All right, you tell me where should I go next? And so we look and all right, have you been here yet? Have you seen Town Hall? Have you seen this one? And it's just a really popular attraction to bring people to Yarmouth and keep them in Yarmouth.
And if I can just respond, Mr. Chairman, thank you. One of the reasons why the marketing community came here today is to learn the process also. And, maybe we can take back some of what was said and develop a system, maybe with a QR code or whatever, to find out a little bit more detail on some of your questions. Because we do feel, and we do see it personally, that this happens. Now, can we collect more data to physically share that? Well, that's a job for the team. So maybe we can do that, but, we do see it, we do feel it. And, for 11 years, I'm going on my 12th year, it has a history. It's like the Hampton Beach sand sculpture contest they have up there, except they do the whole beach at one shot. This is probably what you're thinking about, but it's a whole different venue. We couldn't do that on our beaches because we're not set up for that. New Hampshire's set up a little bit differently. So that's good to hear, and maybe we can expand on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And if I can also say, it's been featured on Chronicle and recently Zip Trip. So that draws out a lot of people to Yarmouth specifically to see this initiative. And if I can, I just wanted to introduce our new staff member, Gren Earhart, with her Yarmouth shirt on.
Support.
There you go.
Okay, any other comments? I mean, I think with the amount of money that we put in, along with the amount of money that's either the chamber or the businesses are putting in, everyone is talking about, it's both on behalf of the sculptures, I think is a win for the town. And for the amount of years that we've been doing it, I think reflects the fact that it's something that people look forward to seeing. And I think it gives us, the town of Yarmouth, a leg up on the other towns around us that aren't doing this. And I think that if we weren't going to do this, my guess it would get picked up by somebody else pretty quickly in another surrounding town. So I think from my perspective, it's money well spent, notwithstanding the comments that you made about staffing. You know where I am on that, about additional staffing here. But I think this is something that complements what economic development is all about. So,
Yeah, I would agree. I have a procedural question. A couple of things. We'll take a vote today, or maybe we will, maybe we won't. But the authority to make this happen doesn't sit with us anymore. Is that right?
Well,
It
we're
sits
gonna
with the
talk,
town- It sits with the town
we'll
administrator.
be talking
and-
about,
And the board of selectmen.
yeah, I mean, the town administrator has to approve any contract.
Right.
Yeah, which has always been the
Which
case.
has always been.
But this is not, I don't see a contract here.
Correct.
And I don't actually see, again, it's procedural and I apologize, but
that's all right.
I actually don't see a formal request for a specific amount of money. That would have to be in a package that goes to the board no matter what. So for you, Mary, I think if the chamber has a specific request, the letter I think is one that supports the project, obviously. But again, my question was how much? So I would think we'd need to have a letter requesting a specific amount
Mhm.
that we could then vote on or
Yeah.
amend but I don't see any piece of paper with a number on it.
Okay, so in the past, we've never done that, so we can certainly do that.
And would be
And
voting.
it's only because we could do it before.
Yeah, right.
Am I right about that?
Honestly, we've never done it before. It has nothing to do with what you're referencing, but I think your suggestion is a good one to formalize it and make it cleaner. So I think we could
I
come back
just
to the
didn't know if
next.
there's gonna be the other step with the town administrator and the board of selectmen.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have to go to like the Board of Selectmen to get it blessed or anything
Okay,
like that.
all right.
But I think your suggestion is a good one regardless.
Okay, and this is for next year?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if I can just say, the artists, what they were asking for was to secure the funding now so that they can make their reservations at their housing, because the housing rate continues to go up. So the longer they wait to make their reservation, their price is probably going to climb.
The next CEDC meeting is September 13th. Do you think that would be an issue if we waited until then to
I
take
think
action
Sean
on the
said if
funding?
they could do it in early September, so I can check with them.
Okay.
Do you think, Mary, that is based upon what you heard from members of the board committee here, there's sufficient evidence to take back to the folks to say, look, we got one more hurdle to cross, but it doesn't look like a big one. It's a low hurdle. It's not a high hurdle.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's a low hurdle.
It's more than acceptable. We thank you for your time today.
So we'll come back next meeting with a more formal request. We'll go from there. That works for everybody.
Perfect.
I just, to Joanne's point, and I don't have a problem with that. Because I see a need to formalize, memorialize things, but I'd like some clarity on what the administration, we are, I think, part of the administration, we're not sure, I mean, we don't work day to day, but you do. You're the staff of this committee, so I see what we do here as an arm of what they're doing. I don't have a problem with memorializing, but I'd like to get some clarity at some point.
About what they see their role as. and the-
Does the town administrator want to see, just for our purposes, and for the folks that come here too? Do they want to see something memorialized?
Yep.
going forward?
Yep.
So,
Sounds good.
okay, so that takes care of the update and request for funding. We'll get that done in September. Does the group the committee want to jump over number 2 and go to 3? Just, I know I got some folks here that may want to hear what we have to say and want to say something back to us.
Your prerogative, you're the chairman.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Fine.
Let's go to the Emerald Grove site visit recap. Again, my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
My apologies for not showing up, Kyle.
No
Everyone
worries.
else that went to that, so.
Joe is gonna have to present this item. He was the only member there.
I mean, ultimately, like I think I mentioned to the folks when we looked there, it's kind of like any other retail location, just with a lot of security. You have to show your ID to the camera to get in. You have to show your ID where they scanned it. Once you've got in, And then my understanding is if you make a purchase, then they scan it yet again. But inside it was glass cabinets and pegboards in the wall with stuff on it. We met with the owner, said everything is locked in a safe at night. The one thing I noticed, I got there a few months early, the out-of-state license plates that were going in and out of there, especially Connecticut and New York, were crazy.
And it's not the kind of clientele you might expect, right?
No, and the age groups, I got there like 20 minutes early, so I was waiting. And the age group was everybody from, I'd say grandparents to, college age. All different, shape, sizes and ages and that. And it moved pretty quick. I mean, just like waiting there, people were in and out in like 10 minutes. It wasn't, they came out with little paper bags. And I guess there are limits, the amount that you can purchase. The state, I can't recall. Do you remember what he said? It was like, there's only so much you can.
Yeah,
you can't
it's
go in
like-
and buy like a grocery bag.
Yep, and they combined the dry herbs with the edibles too, so you can't get, you're limited both. It's like a combined limit. And what I thought was kind of interesting is that you can't go to, if you went and bought from one dispensary in Eastham and try to go to the other one, they have some sort of system that knows how much you bought, which I don't really know how that works, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it was nice, clean. I mean, when you walk in, there was a kind of a noticeable smell. We'll see, kind of that pot smell, but that was kind of the only takeaway. Otherwise, it was completely clean, glass cases, everything was in bins. It was neat. It was organized. I mean, like I'd say, looked like just like any other retail shop, just with a lot of security cameras everywhere and those, steps to get in.
Any questions? How long have they been in, do you know this?
I don't know, but that gentleman that owns that, I think he owns, we said a couple liquor stores,
In
and a couple
Yarmouth.
shops in Yarmouth.
Yeah.
He said. And I don't know, I think he's been there since a few years.
Yeah, either 1 or 2 years, I'd say. None of these are that old.
Is that location a commercial area or a?
It's right off of Route 6.
Right off Route 6.
I guess it's like a strip mall, just a small
Yeah.
strip mall, and it's like the front store, and then behind it, there's like a chiropractor and a bunch of just other offices that go down behind it that are, I guess actually that was a separate building, then right after it was, it's kind of like a little house in front, and then it's the strip mall that's all connected after that.
Should we put this in context? This was just a example.
Yes.
Right?
This-
There's nothing contractual or decided about this. And it was merely a fact-finding opportunity or. Okay, I wanted to say that publicly.
No,
to
that's
put
good.
To put that in context. Fact-finding.
I think what we said, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but when we discussed this several weeks ago, we said that we were gonna do our research on it, right? Yeah. This was part of the research. on it. So we just wanted to, I should have said that at the outset. Thank you for saying that. So yeah, we're not making any decisions tonight. We're not taking any stance at all. We're just getting our work done as far as, what we need to do to educate ourselves. Go ahead.
What do you mention about the IDs? That's required by state law. And I understand the IDs are gonna change. You're only gonna be able to use the federal ones. Because the standard license is now gonna be compromised. The new standard ones, given out to just about anybody unless this petition passes. So that is required by state law. Even on medical marijuana, it's required. I have a friend of mine that uses medical from the VA. Well, he's not at the VA yet, but he's a veteran. He goes to Plymouth, so he gets his medicine, but that's required by state law. And the other thing you brought to my attention, being a former cop here in Yarmouth and in the Air Force, it tells me how many people are actually driving under the influence from out of state coming in here. All right, and that's something that you're gonna have to consider if you're looking at putting in Yarmouth. We got enough drug problems as it is. And the edibles is the one that I'm very much concerned about, considering the reports that just come out from the state about dealing with minors. And one other thing I want to bring up, there's a bill in the legislature to use marijuana, medical marijuana, to children in the schools. Yeah, it was brought up into the legislature. That one really cut my ear on that one.
Okay, this,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, through you to Mr. Gibbs, did the gentleman at the facility have any staffing issues?
Not that it was,
I
aware
didn't
of. I
think
think there was
so.
maybe 3 people maybe working. I think it was himself, maybe 3 other people.
No.
okay. Okay, for future discussion, we'll keep this.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to bring up in terms of the fact finding is that the CEO of the Massachusetts Cannabis Business Association reached out. He'd probably be willing to talk to you guys if you had any questions. I don't know if you want to invite him to an upcoming meeting or if you want to put this on an agenda, a future agenda, the topic. I'm not sure what your plans are, but
What do you feel? I'd say it's taking it this far, at least find all the facts. So that's what it is, fact finding. Why would you invite him?
And if we, come up with perhaps our list of questions ahead of time,
Mhm.
so we can have and maybe invite other questions from
Sure.
anyone in town.
Yeah.
That will actually be a more productive meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. Yes. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Actually, I kind of new to this thing. Is there a specific location that somebody has in mind, some person who wants to run this kind
No,
of
I'm
show?
gonna reiterate what I said a few weeks ago, and that is, this committee has not taken a position at all. We're just trying to educate ourselves. So we don't have any, somebody out here might have a spot. This committee has taken no position on whether or not we want to dance this or have a location for it. We have not.
there is an existing, there's an existing registered marijuana dispensary zoning, which is off of the Ansel Hallett Road area.
Okay, that did
Um,
pass.
That's in the zoning. That's on the
not
zoning
here, that's
map.
at the town meeting.
Anything on this topic would eventually be town meeting. This committee has no power or purview over
Yeah, I
this.
knew that the zoning.
Well, no, in other words, whoever, you get an idea that whoever will be interested in opening a shop like this doesn't want it to be off Ansel Hallett Road, right?
That's,
I think it actually is an attractive location because it's off the highway. It's pretty accessible.
that's the only place it could, that's the only place,
Oh, I
a
know.
medical
Without
marijuana
The
dispensary.
question is whether or not a property owner wants to sell it, because I know a property owner owns a lot of land over there, and I don't think they're interested in this.
Well,
That's free market.
Well, I think that's where we're taking it step by step.
Right.
And that's.
I mean, town meeting has already said no to recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
They said no very loudly.
Yep.
We proposed, the planning board proposed several amendments to allow it. Town meeting said no. So there is no authority or way for recreational marijuana to be, a business in Yarmouth right now. But the committee has been looking at this because other towns now have experience in this. Orleans has experience in this. Eastham has experience in this. Sandwich is another town. And there are economic benefits, if you will, to the towns for each of these locations because of the taxes associated with the sale. So that's the only reason we're doing some due diligence here. There's people who've got experience, they've gone out there, they've established businesses. And the committee is trying to find out how everybody is doing. But as of right now, Yarmouth cannot do anything with regard to recreation.
And it wasn't just the town meeting that said no to recreational marijuana. The town in both across the state, when we had the voting, on that question, voted 54% no in Yarmouth. People voted on that, 54%. So it's not just the town meeting.
I believe this would have to go before town meeting again.
For 2/3.
It would have to be approved town meeting, probably a ballot question too. And then that has to be approved by the Attorney General. And that might not even go through that fast.
Town of Sandwich just reversed their ban, so there is
And
precedent
then
for it.
even after that, then there's a rigorous vetting process that the town would have to do to actually accept a license.
Correct.
So, I actually, my views on it, but for actually the process by which it could happen they're laid out and they're pretty strict, and I agree. Now that other towns have had experience, and because it is an economic issue, this committee really needs to dig in and explore both sides.
Okay, one final question. Gotta be brought up. If you're gonna bring this guy down, the commission, find out how much money is actually benefit to these towns like Sandwich, how much actually comes back to the taxpayers?
Yeah, we actually,
If the money is being used to the taxpayers instead of being sent out some other place.
yep, we did have information from the town of P-Town that's gotten over $1 million so far in tax revenue from the. So, yeah, you're obviously welcome to attend that meeting and, we'll ask those questions. And if you have any additional questions, you're welcome to ask them.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Then I'm gonna say, you're gonna bring up the charge.
Okay, sure. We can go. All right, next item, then we'll take the charge.
So for some background on this, it was presented to you guys, it goes 3 meetings ago or so. And the impetus was that the Board of Selectmen wanted to kind of straighten it out, alleviate any potential conflict of interest concerns the public might have. So there was the stuff in blue was already presented to you, I believe. And so the last time we talked about this, we wanted to make sure that it was consistent with the visioning plan and the economic initiatives outlined in that. So I went through and made sure, and honestly, it pretty much was already. The only part that I added to make sure it was consistent was quality year-round jobs instead of just jobs, specify that we want quality year-round jobs. We made it so that it's clear that we're talking about the funding allocation plan, which is what you guys presented to town meeting this time. So that's what we're talking about doing going forward. The one line that I thought, maybe we didn't need, but Bob Rittenauer, our town administrator, insisted on was this one, because I think the Board of Selectmen want to at least have some sort of role going forward. But kind of thought the whole point of this revised charge was to clarify that they weren't, and it was the town administrator, but now he wants to make sure that that line's in there because that's what the Board of Selectmen advocated for. But other than that, I also changed so that it wasn't, you have to meet every month because we didn't even meet last month. So, but we do meet 12 times per year. Clarify that we have a representative to the Drive and Site Utilization Committee. And since the town administrator is going to be approving all of the contracts, we should add in that you guys kind of report to him as well. But other than that, pretty straightforward, but obviously open for discussion.
Kyle, I'm sorry. I want to go down to the bottom where it says the driving site utilization committee.
Yep.
Is that because of all the questions I've been raising? That's why that's put in there?
No, this committee has always had a representative to the Drive and Site Utilization Committee. It was Jack before you. It just wasn't in the charge. I think because Drive and Site Utilization Committee came after this committee. So
do we want to make it broader to include whatever committees as this, maybe the town administrator deems necessary? Because this is kind of this, let's say driving gets done, all right? How many years is that? 5 or 6.
a lot.
Oh, yeah, I know. But you know what I'm saying? But once it's done,
Well, I think ideally then once it's done, we would then revise the charge again.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That's why we do it now.
Yeah, if you
Or
want.
any other such committees as deemed necessary by the town administrator. Something would
That's
be my
fine.
recommendation.
That's
And
fine.
stuff. Because ad hoc committees come up when needed, right? So why should we box ourselves in? If for some reason, quite honestly, under this Inflation Act,
Mhm.
there's a lot of money that might be flowing through. So we would do
The
ourselves. a
very
disservice.
ironically named Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, but to that, there's a ton of money there for broadband, so
Yep,
maybe we
yep.
want some,
Yep, understood.
My recommendation, and you can put it as a, however you want to take it, is to amend this and any such other committee as
Deemed necessary by the Board of
town.
Selectmen or town
Well,
administrator.
they can wrestle over it. I don't want to wrestle.
The only other question I have is that sentence before, the same sentence, design review committee. I don't know, having a chance to serve on the design review committee, it's really not as germane, I thought, to economic development that some other committees, like the driving site utilization committee. The difference, I'll say it like this, the driving site utilization committee does a couple of things. One, it's uses some of our money here, right? But we're smart about it, we are smart about it. is How that site can be developed using other people's money, but also keeping economic development at the forefront. So it's being done that way right now. I don't see that so much with design review committee. I'm looking at Joanne. I see it more as a offshoot of planning, site plan review and that type of thing, as opposed to economic development. So me being on the other end, my big issue is with that big stupid pole going up. We'll talk about it later, but I that's just my thought. I don't know if there's.
I think
If I had my druthers, I don't think there'd be a representative on
And
this
what does
committee.
this design
serving
review
Design, it's, what it does is, if there's a project, an economic development project, coming most notably on Route 28, it has to meet certain design standards that fit to the scale and size and architecture, if you will.
In addition to what the planning boards,
They have, the owner of the property has in front of them all of the zoning and the architectural design requirements and standards. They then want to recreate their gas station to be a Dunkin' Donuts and an apartment building on top and a drive-through.
Parking.
They want to do that.
Yeah.
And I want to repurpose my land, and they have to go to design review to do that. I think the linkage here is that it's a linkage to a business wanting to, improve, and a business who's looking to change. So the linkage was back to business activity in town and just kind of knowing what proposals are being reviewed by the town. Either they could be residential or they could be business, but
Yeah.
Your experience, so what planning board members is assigned, they really have to be. But it might be worth a discussion.
Yeah.
With the committee, with
Yeah.
the design review committee.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling like there's
There's
a lot of value that you can bring back to us. I mean, that's the whole idea,
Right.
is that you can bring back some.
Yeah. For the discussion point for another time. I just want to bring it
I
up.
think Joe
Yeah.
had something. he wanted.
I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
If I could make a suggestion, the change that Maria wants to make it somewhat generic, why don't we just include design review in that whole phrase at the end and get rid of it? Include that as one of the committees.
Yeah.
that we could
Understood.
be-
Yeah,
that
you
we
don't-
could Be named to.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily even need to name either of the committees. You could just have the phrase Maria
Yeah.
suggested.
Yeah, have it just be broad, like you've said.
Does that make sense?
yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. Take an idea, make it better.
Absolutely. There we go.
I also had one other thing. The top, can you scroll back up? The thing that jumped out at me was quality year round.
Want me to define that further?
I don't know that we want to define it further. Do we want to define it less?
The reason I say quality year round is because in the visioning plan, which, you guys wanted to kind of mesh with this, it specifically indicates that we want year round jobs with higher wages and benefits. We don't just want service sector seasonal jobs, basically.
No, I appreciate the sentiment and the motivation behind that. Just, it jumped out at me as limiting.
Sure. Yeah, it's your
Or maybe
prerogative.
it needed to be qualified in the statement before. Maybe we broaden the couple types of economic bases, the seasonal and the year-round economic base, so that we have that statement preceding this desire for quality year-round jobs. Otherwise, everything that comes in here is going to be seen through a lens of whether or not it provides a quality year-round job. And
How about,
we are a seasonal community, so I don't know how we can get around, ignore who we are.
Right.
how about a broad term that just says quality value-added jobs? I mean, or the alternative, as I think the point is to say, to create quality through and promote, right? Or support, seasonal job opportunities.
Because on some level, I feel like that's why they ask us to sit here, is for us to decide what's a quality job and what's not a quality job.
So the two alternatives are to change year round to value added and or add the following language and support seasonal job opportunities to
Why don't we,
Support our businesses.
I've got a few less words. Why don't we say quality year round and seasonal jobs?
There you go.
Good job.
I agree.
Sounds good.
All right. Good. Do we need a vote on that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I have a question, one paragraph, kind of leaves me hanging. It's under the committee will produce the annual funding for allocation to be approved by the Board of Select. This is where I'm hanging, and presented to town meeting. Does it be approved by town meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Then maybe that should be written in,
It's in your budget. It's in the.
I know, but that should be written on the charge. Be approved by.
I could say approved instead of presented, basically.
Because you can prove it by the selectmen.
Approved by
Selectmen
town.
will recommend it. Then you should say maybe the town meeting needs to approve.
So I have a question.
Presented, changed to approve.
So
No, that's,
if we give a budget to the selectmen, can they change it?
Yes.
So,
so we
so
can't do
you
that.
can, so it shouldn't be, it should just be to present it to the board. of
Yeah.
Selectmen.
It
Is that
could
what you
be
just said?
Because it's up to them if they decide to put it on the warrant.
Right.
It's not up to us. It doesn't.
Presented,
Can't be
presented
in our
to the
charge
board.
of forcing the select board to put it on the warrant. We can't force them to do that.
Yeah, it looks like we just switched the approved and the presented.
Yeah.
To the different parties.
Sure. Yep.
It also would go with town meeting where town meeting can add to it or take away. The only budget they can't take away or anything is the school budget.
But that's you.
Yep. Got it. Sounds good.
Right.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring up my point.
Sure, you want to sit here?
No, I'm already on, I just
Tom,
come out of retirement, to sit on one committee and
We have 2 openings.
comment.
you never know, I might. I'm pretty into financing.
Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Pepsi, could you go to the top, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So our first paragraph, the comma after events, the next word is services.
Right, Tom?
The first paragraph.
Oh, okay, yeah.
After the comma it says
Yeah.
events, it says services. Does that include, I'm assuming broadband? Is that a service? Is gray water, reclaimed water a service that we can provide? For instance, right? We had fire at the dump. How many millions of gallons of drinking water do we use to put out that fire? In 2018, we switched our Workshop Row sewage treatment plant to convert water to Bayberry, which is reclaimed water, saving us 20 million gallons a year, but 100 million gallons of water we did not take out of the aquifer since that's been devised.
Wow.
There's the money there, economic development, they could do more with that service. Right? We could have provided a pump over to the dump. And we could use reclaimed water to put it out. The reason I'm saying this, we generate about 30 million gallons a year out of that septic treatment plant. We only use 20 at Bayberry Golf Course, and the other 10 is dumped in a discharge area. It wasn't big one. It's happening right now.
I thought the Jim Amatrove had switched from the reclaimed water. He brought pipes in from Bayberry into the links because the town administrative charges were over $50,000 a year. I believe that Jim Amatrove did that, so they might not be using that reclaimed water for the links. Could be wrong.
No, they are.
They went back to it.
They are, but we're not using what we generate.
Okay.
We usually generate 24 million gallons at the Workshop Row recycled. We take in, but we manufacture 28 million gallons of reclaimed water. So when we have our plant over here at Buck Island Road, for instance, we're gonna take in 100 million gallons of crappy water, but we're gonna produce 125 million gallons of reclaimed water. We have to use that for our community as a funding source to have people irrigate at a lower rate. I mean, water is, this is the perfect time to talk about water, it's this year. 65% of every human that uses water in their house can be reused. What you put down your pipe, 65% of that day can be reused. And we're gonna go and we're gonna have this beautiful facility, and we're just gonna be dumping reclaimed water in a discharge area like Hyannis does, and Chatham does. They generate too much water. They're buying cranberry bogs just to let water go. And there's other parts in the country, Mr. Chairman, on your friend so
No,
far.
no.
There's other parts in the country that make an economic, viable offense of making money with this stuff.
Well, I think you and I spoke about it too,
Right.
possibly using all the TBW for watering.
Does anybody know that Great Island doesn't even have fire hydrant? No fire hydrant for Great Island. We can pump, in other communities, you see a purple fire hydrant. That's not drinking water. Done.
Yes,
I'm done.
right. Want to do it myself. Okay.
Why don't we treat Tom's soapbox as an opportunity
Yes.
to do something similar like we've done with cannabis and collect some more information? Maybe look at a community that's done it successfully, look at the economic value, the value added. I mean, there's an opportunity here to tie on to the system, even if it's not town sponsored, for a private company that we could foster a relation or help develop a relationship with a private entity that can take the water and do with it whatever it is they want at a profit.
Yeah, we're gonna need some help too, so we'll work together.
Because at this point,
Good
I'm not
suggestion.
sure that the CWMP needs to be, torn up and start over again.
Right.
That's not gonna happen, right? So. Right, Kurt?
Yeah, he
So
wants to
we-
rip it up and start over.
There's plenty of papers on
You-
the economic benefits of reclaimed water. So there you go.
I mean, there's no
Light reading.
laundromat that could get it. There's no, I mean, the car wash could get it.
Right.
And there could be a mobile watering truck that goes up and down the street, giving everyone grass.
We've
or
already proved.
whatever it is.
100 billion gallons. of
You know what I
water.
mean? Like,
Very good point.
let some
Yeah,
capitalists
that's
decide
a
what they
marketing
want to do
tool.
with the
That's a
water.
marketing-
Protest for some
Zero.
help.
Well, no, just that. I wanted to step a little more study on this. We've talked in the past about it. So,
Great.
Yeah, so we'll.
But
Yep.
capitalism, free market
Yeah,
force,
it's all over Florida and done many times privately down there.
Okay,
manning gray water services.
we got review of past meeting minutes, June 28th, 2022. Can I have a motion?
A motion to accept the minutes of June 28th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Yes, thanks for coming.
You're walking really well.
Well-
Congratulations. Everybody got their knees done.
I've had 2 knee operations on it.
Okay, next up, committee review and staff updates. I know you got a bunch of notes here.
Yeah, I was gonna need my agenda back. You guys want to do committee updates first?
Yeah, and I just want to talk about one other thing after all that, so.
So, Steve, what did we end up doing with the charge change? I mean,
Oh, yeah. We probably don't need a vote, but it's probably better to vote and formalize it if you guys can.
Why don't we, when we see it, when we see the revised
Yeah.
one?
Can we get the
We
revised
can
one
vote.
back?
Yeah, so we'll get it.
Next month.
So
Well,
next week-
the board of selectmen, I should have mentioned this too. The board of selectmen are scheduled to look at this on the 30th. So we would need to provide a recommendation by then. I mean, I have your amended, I can send that out. We can
Yeah.
do some sort of conditional vote as,
Perfect. All right.
It's fine. Yep.
they're minor changes, but I got.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll send out the revised one, and as long as nobody has any problems
Well, okay,
with
let's
that,
do
we
it
can.
properly, because we can't take a vote after.
I don't really think you need to take a vote on this, to be
You
honest.
just
How
didn't
about,
say-
how about we just verbalize the recommendation that we recommend
Yep.
that you present to the Board of Selectmen, this document with our proposed changes.
Yep.
Is
Right,
everybody
is that a
in favor?
motion?
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Good, thank you.
Yeah, I'll send out the final revised one tomorrow.
Wastewater planning update.
Yeah, so notice of project change has been filed with MIPA for the wastewater project. They also submitted a SRF application for, I believe it's 0% financing. I don't know if Kurt wants to add anything. Kurt has resigned from the RAC, but he was previously the chairman. So he might be able to add something. We also are planning on doing some RAC neighborhood meetings going forward, going out into the public to kind of update people on where we're at. I think most of the questions are going to be about costs, which we don't have answers for at the moment. So honestly, part of me thinks that the meeting is a bit of a waste of time, but it'll be good just to kind of get it back on everybody's minds that we're talking wastewater. We're still moving forward with it. We're no longer talking about DHY, obviously. We're talking about a Yarmouth only solution. I did bring a map today in case anybody's interested about when phase one, when the different contracts will start. So the first phase will be the treatment facility. Second phase will be along like Old Main Street, kind of the main commercial area there, or one of the main commercial areas. So we're moving along. Roadway banners, I presented, first of all, anybody got any questions on the rack stuff? I should probably pause for a second.
Kurt, you got anything to add?
I suspect the chamber's gonna be involved.
Is there anything-
Yeah, we'll make sure to reach out to the
But you know
chamber.
what I
when
keep
we're-
thinking about too is, in addition to the chamber, remember the group that we interviewed for contract discussions for economic development?
Yeah,
The group that came in from.
yeah, Capital Strategic
I
Solutions.
keep thinking about that group. Is a way to augment. what the
Yeah,
chamber's
I
doing.
think they could play a role. I think it's too early for them to play a role. Because we don't really have that much information to disseminate really at the moment, to be honest with you. Once the betterment discussion starts coming along and, sewer fees and all that stuff, then maybe that's when they could get involved. But right now it's just basically like we're still moving along.
Yeah, it's
Things
still
have been filed.
permitting stage.
Yeah, we're still in the permitting stages, so, yeah.
Okay.
On roadway banners, unfortunately, the ones in the Route 6A Village Center were not approved by the Old Kings Highway Committee. They did not find them appropriate for the area. They didn't
Is
like
that
the
shocking?
design. They didn't like the locations.
Did
They
they have
didn't
something-
like me, to be honest.
They didn't like you?
They didn't like the town. They were very,
Val did a good job.
it was not a pleasant experience, but
They have
This
anything
is-
to offer?
It's on the
Yeah,
heels
did
of
they
all
have
this,
any
right?
alternatives?
they wanted the banners to go. They got caught up on the fact that they said welcome to historic Yarmouth Port. So they were like, if they're going to say welcome to, then they should be on either ends of the Yarmouth Port. And I was trying to explain that wasn't the intention of the project. The intention was to kind of cultivate a more village feel for the area that got people to slow down and made you like want to stop in it, basically, which that was the discussions that this was not. I should back up. This was not the town's idea. This came out of discussions with the business community. It came directly from a meeting with the business community. And then, a couple of business people came and, one of them, I don't even know if he supported the project or not. He just used it as a launching pad to talk about another topic. The other one, the other one was not in favor of it, but he's not in favor of anything. And they took that as indicative of the whole business community down there. They said, no one's in favor of it and we don't like it. So no. So that's kind of how it ended. The Board of
How
Selectmen.
many extra banners do we have to put
No,
somewhere
right.
else?
Put someplace else. Put 'em
Well,
on
they said they
someplace
didn't want it to look like Route 28. That was another one of the comments. And then they complained that all the money's being spent on Route 28 too, as well. But but the good news is we did get the banners approved for the two locations in front of Town Hall, the veteran banners and the ones in Parkers River. They've been ordered. They're supposed to actually arrive on the 25th, a couple of days from now. I'm working on trying to figure out the installation of it. We might try to rent a truck and have DPW do the installation for us. So working on that, but should be up, early September, I'm hoping. And Mary, we did repair that one banner. Actually, me and Robert Nelson went out and repaired that one banner.
It's kind of late in the season, but maybe next year, maybe some of these banners can go along the Bass River or Parker River. I mean, we got a lot of strangers up and down our river.
What do you mean by the river?
On the bridges.
Either on the bridges or or at the packet, because people come from all over, go fishing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, again, it's just another, I would, if I was gonna do it, I'd probably do a packet, something of the Parkers.
Yeah, that's the idea. We already have them along the packet landing, not in
I
packet
meant
landing.
the visible from the water.
Yeah.
We really shouldn't discount that if you count the number of boats that are actually going up and down.
Yep,
It's
they will be-
It's insane.
And they will be on Parkers River Bridge, so you will be able to kind of see it from there. But did you want to add something, Mary?
I was just gonna say, for someone who's maintained the banners for 7 years, or at least 5 years, that will be a big challenge with the winds, especially
true.
when you have a south wind. Then you have the risk of that polluting the river. So that would have to be thought out very carefully.
We're talking about maybe trying to update the designs for the other banners now that it's been a few years. That's something if you guys want, we can look into, but yeah, this update was just to let you know that the ones are gonna be going up. We're gonna have some new ones soon.
Well, the ones with the vent holes, we should consider how much extra money that is.
They're not that much more.
There you go. Okay,
Well,
terrific.
no, 1 second.
Yep.
Tom, you want to talk about banners?
Mr. Chairman, I know the Oakland's Highway asked to bring it back.
Yeah,
I wasn't-
yeah.
I wasn't sure, maybe just. a
Well, they
suggestion.
suggested maybe come back if we wanted to basically do everything that they suggested that we do, and we don't, that wasn't the intention of the project, so. Yeah, I'm playing the fun role of being the man in the middle, because then the Board of Selectmen said that they wanted to appeal the Old Kings Highway decision, but. It's outside of the appeal window, and there's a whole bunch of other problems with that, but I don't know where that's gonna stand, because it's not really up to me. It's not, it was originally a Board of Selectmen kind of sprung project from these meetings with the business community, so.
Well, I was.
It's a bit in limbo, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I was just gonna maybe suggest or recommend considering it came from here, have an Old Kings Highway visit, and maybe not say welcome to, but Yarmouthport Village. I mean, that's what you're trying to
Yeah.
emphasize. And
Yep.
you can also explain that, Barnstable took over their town, the road, right? It's now controlled by Barnstable, and they have the big side humps, and maybe Old Kings Highway won't want that, but that's a possibility. So I was just saying, work with them, changing the sign and see if we can go forward with it, because I think we all want it. I think Route 6A is extremely important, and they want to be part of, the whole town. It's a whole town effort. And, Ossipee in New Hampshire, they have great ones at the Stoneville lot. And every village in Ossipee is participating. I just think that most folks should
I think,
be included, and maybe to go somewhere, because right now, like Kyle said, it shouldn't be on him.
No.
And
Well, the one thing I'll say about that is if I thought that we could tweak the design and take it back to them, and that would be feasible, I would do it, but that's not, the design, I think, was just kind of one of the things that they brought up. They did not like, they don't like banners. They don't like banners in the historic area. They don't think it's appropriate,
Okay.
for better or worse. They're not gonna agree to those locations based off of the feedback that was provided at that meeting.
The sawhorses on Route 6A that are blocking traffic. Look historic to me too. huh?
Well, that was brought up at the meeting, but that's a whole different issue.
The sawhorse is actually an ancient use. It's really used in the West. back in the day.
It's historic. I mean, we do have pictures from 1892 when there was flags on each one of those poles up in 6A, celebrating our 250th anniversary of our.
I wish you gave those to me before I went to the committee. They're a little useless now.
Well, I'm just saying, I think we should be invited. Anyway.
I think we should consider making a motion to repurpose however many signs we put towards that area someplace else.
I have a
Second.
suggestion.
You're making a motion.
I'll make that a motion.
Yeah, I'll
Let's-
second.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily need a motion, because the money's just gonna sit in the banner account until you guys decide to do something else with it,
And I was gonna
basically.
say, let's not do anything until the Board of Selectmen decide what they want to do. If they want to really push the issue, because why do we
But-
need to get in the middle of that?
But certainly you can return a couple, it was,
There's plenty of places we can
Yeah.
put it. We can
yeah,
Exit 8.
we can highlight
whatever it is.
commercial zones again. we can-
Barnstable line.
Gateways.
So you withdraw the motion and go.
I do, I withdraw it.
Okay, let's go on.
Broadband planning real quick. We've had a couple meetings with Verizon recently. We're talking with them. They have a lot of interesting 5G type of stuff that I don't really totally understand, but we're having another follow-up meeting to talk about ways they might be able to help the town with something like as simple as maybe beach parking and letting the public know when the beach parking's been filled through some sort of, technological solutions, or maybe they help us, do some sort of broadband pilot project. It's all still in the kind of exploratory phases about what each side can kind of help the other side with. But if a member wants to sit in on those calls, you're welcome to. It's kind of a little bit open at the moment. But I think we're going to be following up with them in a couple weeks to talk about possibility of some of those things, smart city solutions, street light dimming, which was something that we previously talked about, using that to do some sort of broadband thing. It's really a topic that I like. There's like a certain level I can understand. And then once we get it past a certain level, I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's a little tough for me to come and articulate it to you guys. So if one of you guys wants to join it on the call, by all means.
I'll listen.
I was
You will
gonna
go?
s- Yeah, and as I mentioned previously, the new federal Inflation Act has a lot of incentives
Yep.
for broadband, and specifically, which I have to find out, is that it gives money to electric cooperatives to invest in broadband.
Nice.
So to the extent that Yarmouth is a member of this organization, and all other towns, I have to say that. But I'm going to be in the process of identifying how that money gets funneled through, so I'll.
This might be an opportunity to bring in some people that have done this before, because on some level, broadband for municipalities is a bit akin to a monorail. Like, it's been done poorly by so many communities that have spent so many millions of dollars to try to get it done. There's very few that have been successful. We might want to talk to those that have, and figure out how they were able to overcome what other towns have not been able to.
Certainly. I mean, I think in this topic, one of the big things for communities that have been successful is the communities that already had a light plant, because you already have the infrastructure in place, which obviously we don't have. So like our former town administrator, Dan Knappich, had a lot of experience in this field, because Westfield, where he was a mayor, had a light plant. So they were able to, they have the manpower that can go out and repair the actual fiber and whatnot. One community on the Cape that's been cutting edge is Falmouth. So we could probably invite some people in from Falmouth, EDIC.
Even that's been
And
a
I can,
long
Right.
process for them.
It has
10
been.
years.
Yeah.
and I can reach out to Eversource, because there's a neutral zone in the wires, and find out a little bit more about who can actually access those.
And Open Cape might be a part of the conversation. That's, it should be a part of the conversation at some point.
That's where it gets
Um,
above my head too, because there's so much going on in the polls that I just never even realized.
Mhm.
There's competing territories on those polls, and it's just.
Yep.
It's all jurisdictional, you know.
And my last update is that we're working on releasing the wayfinding signage RFP. We're hoping to get it out by the end of this month, because the project needs to be wrapped up through the grant by June 30th of next year. So working on that, we're gonna get a consultant on board and get a nice plan.
Good.
Now, we'll hopefully start, we're gonna include, the business center stuff that Joe had previously talked about. We wanted to kind of not just be wayfinding, but like an overall master plan signage, because this committee, we've bantered around the signage topic for a while, and
Since I've been on it.
yeah, and we really need somebody like what we're trying to bring on now, a consultant, to take a very broad look at it and to try to come up with some sort of consistent design that can be used going forward. So hopefully this will bring us a lot of the answers we've been seeking for a while.
So it's not on the agenda, but I may perhaps ask them to get on the next agenda, but I did tell you that I would ask about the vacant downtown storefront program that night. So I spoke with the staff at the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council. It's actually part of the Office of Economic Housing and Economic Development. And they encourage us to help them better define or adapt this program to accommodate our seasonal businesses, because the tax credits are meant for year round. So all we have to do is propose a definition of, what goes in that year round. And secondly, they will entertain sort of spot, they will entertain multiple locations. So it's just a question of us being assertive and saying, this is what we want. The feedback I got was, ask for it, you're likely to get it, because there are no communities on the Cape that have been approved, because we have to think outside the box. So you have an option, right? I can help you draft that, or you can invite Anna Marie Kirsten, who's the administrator of the program, here to our next meeting. And she can help guide us. And she said that, she can jump on a Zoom call. If you wouldn't mind putting it at the top.
I don't know, are you guys looking at me? It's up to you guys.
Well, yeah, that's the scuttlebutt.
Is that the property owner works with the tenant for a tax incentive? That's basically how it works over the town is pretty much.
It's
We
been
just
very
have to identify an area, and then the property owner and the tenant will work it out. but we get
Town
some-
signs up,
Yeah.
they put up the maps. We just have to have a carve out for the types of jobs that we think are likely to
Right.
produce, because the threshold for a year-round job is pretty high. However, if we can ask them to make an
Right.
exception or to modify the definition, they're willing to work with us.
And we have a perfect example where the registry is. We have some of those buildings empty since the building has been built on the towards McDonald's, which could be used for year-round businesses like the AutoZone, like the B&A Center. It just has to be defined that area.
Mhm. And so I don't think there's any fee. So-
Joanne?
So we'll leave it to the,
Yep,
you,
we're gonna
the
set up
chair
a
and
Zoom
Kyle
call.
to
Yep.
figure it out.
Joe? Good?
What are we thinking for upcoming
I
meetings?
just
'Cause-
have one.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's block your ears.
Okay.
This group did some work with the RFP for the chamber. Well, given the RFP work, we selected the Chamber of Commerce. There's not been, not because of Kyle, but there's not been a contract done yet for the chamber. When we finished up this work a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
It's not because of him, it's stuck elsewhere in this building, maybe with the legal side of things, I'll leave it like that. But right now, we don't have a contract with the town of Yarmouth does not have a contract with the Chamber of Commerce, so there is nothing being done. So if there's expectations that we have for the contract that we want to bring up next year during the contract discussions, remember that. They didn't have a contract, so they're gonna start late when they do get the contract. So just alerting everyone to that. If you know somebody, maybe you want to pick up the phone, make a phone call. Kyle's done what he can to get it through the system, but it's just like,
Well,
Well-
Just to formalize the request for an update.
yeah.
I can give you an update right now. I mean, the reason that it's been delayed is because first, selectmen demanded to approve it, which hasn't been the case in the past. So we had to bring it to a board of selectmen meeting, which was a week or two out, right? Then the board of selectmen approved it, but also demanded that the town council approve it in case there was any concerns with conflict of interest or whatever. But I mean, that was kind of, I don't understand why there would be a concern. So then we sent it to town council and we haven't heard back in a couple of weeks. And I asked them for an update this week and I haven't heard back. So I'll ask them for another update end of this week, but it's currently sitting with town council, waiting for them to bless the contract before we can send it to the Chamber of Contract for their approval. It's very standard. The whole concern, it's all about what the concern about the chamber's relationship with this committee. It's all springs from that. So
The file would be through the IG's office and procurement, or the AG's office with procurement, not town.
I'm not the
council.
one who asked for the town
I'm just-
council
I'm
review.
trying
I
to think
agree.
why,
No, we don't want to do that. I just think we want to send a loud, clear message to Kyle, through Kyle,
Yep.
to say, the committee, I met with the committee last night, we're pretty damn upset.
Yep,
We
I
did all this
will-
Work, and we don't have a contract right now. So
Yep.
there's expectations that are set by selectmen and other people in the town, other chambers, it's not happening, so they don't have a contract.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to Bob tomorrow and I'll also follow up with town council again.
It was supposed to be effective August 1st.
It's supposed to be effective August 1st. It's now going to be set up to be January 1st. I'm going to do everything in my power to have it in place for January 1st.
January.
Or, I'm sorry, September 1st, September 1st.
I was
sorry.
gonna say, yeah, we're supposed to.
My apologies. Karen's like, I'm out of here. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Real quick, so we were talking about the meeting with the vacant storefront, and we were also talking about recreational marijuana discussion. What do we want? Our next meeting, September 13th, we'll also have to approve the sand sculpture trail. What do you want on that agenda? You want the vacant storefront? You want recreational marijuana? You want both? Do we want to have
Can we
two
do
meetings
both
in
or do
September?
we do one?
I'm okay with it. People.
I'd say you probably only want to have one of those two topics, recreational marijuana or the vacant storefront. We could have two meetings in September.
Is my personal opinion, it's more value.
I agree.
in the short term.
What's it? Storefront.
Okay, yeah, and then we'll do
Yeah.
recreational next.
And another. yeah.
Yep, sounds good.
Banners. Redesign banners.
Okay, now
So
we're
we have
ready for
We have a
motion.
motion. Second, all those in favor?
Aye, aye.
Opposed? Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman.
Happy Labor Day.
Yeah. send me you.
Really?